Haven, and welcome back to Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. I'm your host, Lucy Gellman. I am a little bit sick because someone brought a bug home from daycare, but you know what? We're working through it. The sun is shining today. I'm very excited about that. My guest today is Shayla Streater, and we are talking about A Seat at the Table Breaking Bread remix on April 26th. Did I'm glad I gave you a little laugh.
No, I'm like, yes, it's real.
Yeah, I'm just so excited. On April 26th, that's a Saturday. If you didn't know, now you know, from 4 to 8 p.m. So we were talking about that. Shayla, first of all, just welcome. Thanks for coming on Arts Respond. We've had you here before, but it's been a minute. And so I'm really happy to have you back.
I'm super excited to be back. Yes, thank you for the invitation. I'm super, super grateful. So,
Yes. And I
yes.
will also say, just shout out to Edge of the Woods, which is like my de facto meeting place with most people in New Haven, because we were able to reconnect there in the fruit aisle,
Exactly.
just, surrounded by some good produce. So shout out to them.
Shout out.
They bring people back together. So let's hop right into it, Shayla. And I want to talk a little bit about what A Seat at the Table Breaking Bread remix is. And
Mhm.
then I want listeners, I'm always tempted to say readers because outside of this, I'm a reporter. And then I want listeners to get a sense of who you are. But let's talk about this event and sort of the planning and visioning that went into it.
Ooh, okay. So, yes, a seat at the table breaking bread remix is literally something that my ancestors literally put in a for me. I originally, so let me go back. So I did collab and I launched my business, Divine Interventions. And I was like, cool, yes, like on a high. I'm like, what's next? What's next? And so didn't know what to do. And I kind of just had to silence my voices in my head. I went home and I meditated. And literally, this event was a vision that came to me through meditation. And so I saw my elders at a table, I saw the community coming together, and I saw us eating together, like breaking bread. So I was like, okay. So literally, so back in the fall, I originally was going to launch this. I was going to launch a Seat at the Table Breaking Bread remix. And the answers was like, nope, not yet. Right. We need a little bit more planning. We need a little bit more like planning with this out. And so here we are coming out in spring renewal because I know it's time for people ready to come out of the winter. And basically what you're looking at is like a 4 hour event, right? A 4 hour interactive event where I am bringing in guest chef to come in to facilitate this 2 hour plant-based cooking class. And so I always get asked, are you a vegan? And so I call myself a conscious eater. It's not about, I gravitate to plant-based foods. And so it's about educating about eating vegetables. So I want to teach the community about ways that you can cook plant-based foods. And so I got the best chefs throughout Connecticut coming in to facilitate every month, right? And so here you got the first 2 hours, then we're going to break bread together. And then I got my elders coming in each month to come and tell their story. So this month, the theme is called Our Roots because we have to start at the foundation, like what rooted us, like what makes Shayla Shayla, what makes Lucy Lucy, right? We have many stories to tell, but we always have a foundation we come from. And so I see at the table, Breaking Bread Remix is literally a community event where I'm bringing the community out. We're going to come and eat. We're going to break bread together. Yes.
So before there's so much to unpack there because I want to talk about storytelling. I want to talk about our elders,
Yes.
which is a group that I think gets chronically ignored a lot of the time. I want to talk about plant-based food because it's something I really care about. But I also want to talk about something you said, which is what makes Shayla Shayla.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's get into that.
So what makes Shayla Shayla? Like my life is a journey. Like we all have journeys. And so for me, my journey started, I used food to heal myself. Okay. So, had 3 children, developed high blood pressure, and my daughter was my third one, and I had her prematurely, and I had preeclampsia. So I almost lost my life. I did. I literally almost lost my life. And I remember going to the doctors and beautiful Jamaican lady with the afro, the hair, and cultural. I'm like, okay. And she was telling me I would never be able to get off my medications. And so for me, I don't take no lightly. Like, no, it's just not it. Like, I know no's the answer, but no is just not acceptable for me. And so I started this journey learning about food and ways to heal myself through food. So I use food to heal myself, actually. And that was my journey. And so I started with that. And so here I am, divine intervention kicks in, and I want to teach others about understanding like it's a responsibility when it comes to food, right? It's a responsibility of the food that we eat, the relationship we have with food, that kind of things. And so um, I'll just break down what divine means. So divine, which is DIV number 9, INE. The 9 represents completion. We are made whole. We're made complete. It's our life stories and our journeys that shapes us and shift us into these different beings as adults, right? And as elderly people. And so I'm like, okay. So it's about restoring us back to our divinity, right? That's where we're striving, all of us as humans, right? Striving to regain and restore our divinity. And then interventions is with the E in. And so the root word for enter is to go within. And in order to regain and restore our divinity, you have to go within. You have to do that eternal work. Nothing's external. Everything is internal. The work is inside. And so that's what divine intervention offers.
And I feel like it's really hard to talk about things like plant-based eating, really minding the food that you're putting into your body, also doing internal work.
Mhm.
And on top of that, Black maternal health. You can't divorce that, in my experience, from capitalism and from talking about capitalism. And so I'm wondering, for you, how were you also able to navigate that part of your journey? Because we are living in a world, Shayla, and you and I have talked about this before, um, where like I think that especially women, and then on top of that, if you're a woman of color, are getting these messages of like, sure, you can do it all, and you can be a mom, and you can work and do this, but it's really hard to do that. Um, and if you also have children, and or you're growing a child, and you're working, and you're trying to cook, like often it feels like a very precarious balancing act. And that's because the world puts a lot on you. And so for you, what did that also look like as far as sort of saying like enough? Like I'm not going to subscribe to this system in which the world wants me to be unhealthy.
You're right. And thank you for saying that, because for me, I saw strength as doing it all and never stopping, right? And never seeking the support, right? And so for me, I did the transformation work. I went and did workshops. I went to understand why is it that I want to be this tough, powerful person, right? Like strength to me was like doing it all without asking for support. And I had to relearn or unlearn that sort of belief system. That's a belief that I grew up with. And I think part of it is like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for support. It's okay. Like, that's the strength, right? When you can literally be vulnerable and say, listen, I don't know it all. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I need support. And you'll be surprised how the universe will respond with those people or individuals or those groups, or you'll have a conversation with someone saying, I know someone, or they'll bring up a topic that you were just thinking about, right? And so I think we have to get to the part of just saying it's okay to say, I don't know, and I need the support. And I call myself a connector for a reason, because like someone would drop something in my lap and I'll be like, okay, I'll get back to you. And then a week later, I'm meeting someone who's presenting the same idea or same offering. And I'm like, I'll connect you to. So yeah, we have to start there. Yeah.
So I also want to know more about your journey with food and especially plant-based eating. Although I love the term, was it intuitive eater that you used?
I call myself a conscious eater.
Conscious eater, my
Yeah.
apologies.
No, no, no.
Um, yeah, yeah, I love that. It's, some people say like flexitarian, where they're like mostly vegetarian or vegan, but then depending on where they are, I would say I like lean toward veganism, but if I'm covering, an event and someone puts meat in front of me and like someone in their family has spent all day cooking that meat, I'm gonna try it. Things like that. So yeah, so tell me about your journey through plant-based eating to plant-based eating. And have you always enjoyed cooking?
No.
Okay, I
No.
want to hear about that because I think that some people love cooking, and for some people, it's like it feels like a task or a chore.
Oh no, I got into cooking when I had children, right? And so for me, when I started, I had my oldest, he'll be 23 next month. So we're talking about almost 22 years ago. When I started that journey, I was like, okay, I want to make some shifts. I want to make some changes. So I just started reading natural health books, started buying cookbooks, going to Edge of the Woods. So I am a 22-year-old, maybe years, customer there. And so that started my journey of cooking. So I started cooking from scratch, right? I started making my own sauces, like own like particular foods. No, I don't enjoy cooking. But I learned to like treat cooking as it's an energy base, right? So no, I don't cook every day, but I also when when I'm cooking, when I got the incense burning, the music playing, and I'm about to vibe out, like, and that's when I put the love and the energy in it. But if it becomes a daunting task and I say don't do it, right? Like you have to love what you're doing because food is about love. It's an energy. So when you put that love into it, people can taste it. Your children can taste it, the family can taste it, kind of thing. So that was my start. And then, me and the boy's father at the time, we wanted to make sure that we had home style cooking meals. So we would cook, come up with different recipes, and we always sat at the dinner table and ate dinner. It was like kind of our conversation piece. Like that was something we made sure that always happened. And I just continued gravitating towards it. And then I eventually trained my children how to cook. So they all know how to cook. Yes, exactly. And that was a beautiful thing because I wanted them to also be able to self-sufficient. I mean, they don't gravitate to my conscious eating, but they still know they have a foundation. They were given a foundation and you do the best you can. And but yeah, I enjoy plants, like you said, like Lucy. I am a typical person, like, this conscious eater thing is about removing the boxes. Like we've been trained and raised like since birth, right? Of these boxes, right? Check up these boxes. You're this, you're that, right? And all these different things. And then when we put ourselves in these boxes, then we feel like we have to live to the expectations of those boxes. So conscious eater is more about living to the responsibility of yourself, right? Like understanding, knowing your body, knowing what you need to eat, right? If you are nourished and you need to eat food, then go eat the food that's going to nourish your body, give you the fuel that you need, right? And so I'm hoping people are going to the doctors, right? But if you do, and the doctor's telling you stay away from these things, we know what things that our body does not like, right? It tells us. So it's about listening to the body and being responsible and reading labels. I'm big on about reading labels, people. Like I'm big on it because they hide a lot of the chemicals in the food.
And
So
yeah, and I feel like only recently has there been more like investigative journalism, more discussion around the fact that also like the foods that we're eating now are, not to sound overly crunchy, um, but are very different than the foods we were eating either even like 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Just as far as like additives, processing, even within, we're talking about plant-based eating, which is so good, but even within that, there's monoculture, which is the mass growing of foods, and like that is, it's bad for the planet and it's also not the best for our bodies, and so all of this is complicated, right?
it really is complicated. And I'm a big fan of I do the farmers market. So I know we saw each other at
Love
the
the
farmers
farmers
market
market.
too. So
Yes.
the
Shout out
Woo-
to City Seed. Sarah Miller does great work over
yes,
there.
CDC is
Yes.
amazing. I do the Wooster Street. They're all
Yes.
year long, FYI. So just know that Wooster Street stays open 24, 12 months out of the year. So that's the blessing of it. And then for me, it's about eating according to the season, right? So that's another education part because strawberries are not typically like eating strawberries 12 months out of the year. No. So understanding like chemically how fruits and plants are grown and developed so that you can get the most nutrients out of it, right? Because if you're eating strawberries in December, no, right? And then having a versatile like menu, right? I always say, I think people have mentioned using the rainbow, right, as your gauge to know what vegetables to eat. Absolutely, right? Like you're having a mixture of vegetables, and I will say it does take time to develop, right? Like you got to be gentle on yourself and give yourself grace, knowing that if you're transitioning to this new way of life, like it's a way of living, right? It's not a diet, it's a way of living. And you do have to be gentle when you're going into this. But I shout out to farmers markets. That's what I do. I typically do farmers markets. Yeah.
So one other piece of this is that you're working with chefs, Connecticut-based chefs.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that and sort of growing your culinary footprint and also your, I want a word that isn't like consumer or consumption or consuming, um, but just like the way that you are appreciating food in a new way and connecting with folks who are also really thinking deliberately and thoughtfully about Connecticut's food ecosystem, about what we put into our bodies. You know, I think of someone like Meg Fama, who is, I think, based in Worcester Square, but just opened a place in Fairhaven,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Farm Belly, and she works very deliberately with local farmers. And that's something that like it makes her work 10 or maybe like 100 times harder. And she's decided that it's really important for her belief system.
Right. Yeah. So the chef, like this month, like I said, our theme for A Seat at the Table, Breaking Bread Remix is Justin J Infused. Love his food. And so many of these chefs, have eaten their food. I've tasted their food. I've patronized them. And so for me, it's like I can do the cooking, yes, but it will take the fun out of it because, I'd rather give it to someone who actually this is their career, this is their passion. Like I said, I don't do cooking every day. So like to think about doing this monthly, and it became for me, I'm about creating a win-win situation. Like, how do we make this a win-win? So they can facilitate, they can create the menu, and then also I can promote their businesses, right? And so that we can shop locally, source locally. I know Farmer D is another chef as well. Like, he just did his event at Concord. I didn't get a chance to go, but like there are amazing farmers throughout Connecticut, New Haven, right? And sourcing them and supporting them, right? Like that's the thing, is supporting these people.
Tell me a little bit more about, you said Justin Hernandez, Jane Fuse, is
Yeah.
the chef behind the first event in the series. And so tell me a little bit about your work with him, how the two of you met, and then connecting for this and sort of building a menu and a plan for this.
Gosh, let me tell you, full circle, full circle. I met Justin when the elements kicked off, right? Like literally met him at Bloom. He was one of the servers. He had a beautiful cocktail drink, mocktail, right? And so I was like, yes. And just, see him throughout the community, hey, how are you doing? Kind of that. And then I met him again through the wind down CT. So he's been moving. He's been moving. And so when I eventually launched, decided to launch this, and I was like, I need chefs. The spirit came to me and was like, reach out to Justin. I was on Instagram. I saw his name, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to him. And so I messaged him on IG, and he was like, yeah, let's have a meeting to figure out if this is aligned, if it's, our missions aligned. And I was like, absolutely. And that's all she wrote. Like literally I told him, I said, I couldn't pick the best person to help launch this because it just made the transition so easy. Like we feed off each other. He gives me feedback. I offer him support, and we came up with a beautiful menu for April. So because we're going to keep it in our roots, we are doing oyster dumplings, okra stew with biscuits. Now, mind you, everything's plant-based. We're doing, I got to make sure I'm getting the correct.
And when you say are you talking about oyster mushrooms?
Oyster mushrooms, yes.
Yeah, that's delicious. Oh,
Oyster
so good.
mushrooms. And that's
So good.
popular. People fry them, but Justin has a whole different way how he's about to cook the oyster mushrooms, right? And so, not him, but the recipe. And then we have rooted veggie empanadas. Yes, with a nice different types of root vegetables. We have our savory fried plantains and garden fresh sofrito. And then we have our conscious coleslaw because I'm all about raw. Like I'm big on making sure that we have to have raw in every menu.
And is coleslaw fermented?
It
I'm
can
thinking
be
about sauerkraut.
sauerkraut.
Bad.
Sauerkraut. Yeah.
I was like, it's something with cabbage.
Yes, yes, yes. And that is our menu. So I'm super excited. And I have to add, because the remix part is my elders gave me, I did a survey with them, and they shared their favorite dishes. They shared like some of the cultures and their favorite dishes. And so our elder for this month is Bruce Trammell Sr. And he is an amazing elder. He does coaching, he helps young fathers with, transitioning. And his favorite meal was chicken and dumplings. So we remixed his meal. So that is how the remix happens. We're remixing the elders' dishes to make it more veganized, more plant-based. If it's already plant-based, we're gonna top it up a little notch, things like that.
That's also exciting to me because I think this is changing. Like, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I think if people heard vegan, they thought of like a crunchy, underweight white person in Birkenstocks who like hadn't shaved for a while, which is fine. If you don't want to shave, don't shave.
Right, do
That
you?
like, right, do you? But I think that like now, and this is something I've noticed just even since moving to New Haven. I think now that is changing, but sometimes vegan or vegetarian, plant-based food still gets a bad rep. And I'm so glad you said that you're thinking about alternatives. I think her name's Sylvia Loney. So behind Chef Sill's Vegan Kitchen is another person who thought about healing and the role that food can play in healing for both herself and for other folks in her family who were dealing with everything from cancer to chronic inflammation and chronic disease. Um, and so I love this idea of reinventing these foods that are very special to folks.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because
And
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, I'm listening.
Well, I was also going to say, everyone has, I think, at least one food tradition that they grew up with. So I'm curious, what's yours?
Okay, so I'm a Southern person. So when I jumped into vegan, I'm gonna tell you, my kids would tell you, I did tofu was my thing. I don't do tofu no more, but it was fried like barbecue tofu because I make my sauces from scratch, and I would do macaroni and cheese. I would do my collard greens and cabbage mixture, and possibly like Southern vegan food. Trust me, like Mom, we doing Southern vegan food again? Yes, I would do Southern vegan food. Yes, yes.
I love that. And if you don't want to share, that's okay. What is your secret? Because I feel like everyone I've talked to who has some spin on vegan collard greens has their own secret. Like sometimes it's smoked onions, sometimes it's like slow roasted tomato or blistered tomato. I've also talked to people who are like, you can't make it without a meat bone, and I'm like, oh, but you can.
Yeah.
It's not going to taste exactly the same, but you can. Do you have a secret?
I do. So liquid smoke is actually a vegan alternative. So it's just the smoke flavoring, right? So that's the smoky flavoring that you get when you put your smoked turkey necks and things like that in vegetables. So you don't need a lot. You need like a pinch of it in it, but it definitely gives that smoky flavor. And then take out the water and boiling, right? You saute it up with the onions and the peppers, and you mix it up with the greens, and you do your liquid smoky seasonings. You got a good collard greens. And yes,
I love that. So, just before we continue, I want to remind folks if you've been hanging out with us or if you've just joined and you're listening, this is Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. Arts Respond is a collaboration between WNHH and the Arts Council of Greater New Haven. I'm your host, Lucy Gellman, and I'm so excited to be here today with Shayla Streater of Divine Interventions. And we are talking about a seat at the table Breaking Bread remix. I'm trying really hard not to say Breaking Bread the remix.
I know, I know.
Um,
You did the breaking bread in the park. So it's
yes,
an extension of it.
yeah. I do also want to talk about the importance of just shared meals, which you mentioned a little bit, because I think that's something that like society has moved a little bit away from. Folks are often very isolated. I think every evil comes back to capitalism, but folks are sometimes very isolated or they just feel pressed for time. And so I've talked to a lot of people from family units to friends who just don't make time to sit down and share a meal with each other anymore. I don't know if it's something that shifted during COVID when all of us were sort of in our own physical spaces. But talk to me just about the importance for you, and then, of course, sharing this beautiful thing with the community of sitting down, sharing food, and sharing stories as well.
I think part of it though is like for for me, it's the intentions behind it. Like, what do you want? And so for me, when I originally started doing breaking bread, like this is not something new. I've been doing this for the last 9 years. Not starting in my home, starting in another good friend's home, right? Arden's. And then so we literally got our families together and we took whatever was in our cabinets and was like, let's put this meal together. And I will say for me, I'm a very I love traditions. Traditions is big for me. Like I grew up with my mother having card game tables and family coming over and people playing and eating together. So I think that's the foundation for me. And it just when I met the sis, I was like, I saw there was a need. I saw there was a need and it was like I needed to offer that support. And it just kind of blossomed into this like weekly dinner meetup, right? Where the kids got to play, the adults got to like release and that's where the storytelling comes in, right? Because then you get to like share your life experience, whether it's some past or whether what's going on current. But I do feel like we as humans do need a chance to release. We have to release. We have to find communities or places to release. And I'm not talking about complain. I'm talking about release and then allow space to continue to move to the next day or that kind of stuff. And so breaking bread became that sort of safe haven. Like everyone needs a safe space. And so it became that safe haven for many for our families. And then we opened it up to other people. And it was just like, I would like to invite everybody, but I can't invite everyone to my home. Like that, that would be nice. And so it just from that it blossomed. And then again, like I told you, spirit just put it in my like, you need to now take this out of your home. We're ready to take this out of the home. You say you want to present it to the community. It's time to present it to the community. So this is like my offering to the community in a sense where like I want to bring us together. I want us to like we heal through storytelling. We do. We find that we have similar stories and it's like, well, wow, like that's something similar that I'm going through. And like you hear someone how they triumph through that. And it's like you're not alone in that sort of like situation, right? You don't feel alone. You feel like I'm actually sharing experience with other people. So I think part of that too is about bringing more of like an intrinsic, like moral, like respect, like for each other, for elders, obviously, like you said, elders. I do feel like that's one population that's ignored, and so part of it is also like honoring them, like honoring, like I give up to Hanan, Dr. Hanan, who does the Juneteenth celebration, right? She does the elder ceremony, right? And I think that was something when I witnessed that, I was like, yes, like absolutely. And so I actually connected with her in June. We'll be part of the Juneteenth coalition closing out with a dinner. But it's about honoring the elders. So it's so many different layers to it, Luz. But like at the end of the day, it's about bringing the community of heal. It's like it's time to heal. It's time to heal. Like really, it's time to heal. It's time to heal through conversation. It's time to have a safe space to just be your authentic self. Like there's no judgment. There's no okay, why you didn't do it this way, right or wrong. It's just be. Like that's literally what this is about.
Sorry, you would think after 5 years of using Zoom, I would have figured it out. Um, so I want to talk about a couple of things. One, as you were saying this, I was thinking about the fact that like we say over and over again, I feel like especially parents say, oh, it takes a village, it takes a village. But I find that women, mothers,
Mhm.
are often they often feel shame when asking for help if the village doesn't just like show up unasked.
Yeah.
And so I think that what you're naming is the like cultivating that village and nourishing literally nourishing it, feeding it. and growing the village. But also the freedom to just be, because I do want to talk about our elders. I think that's one of the most important things. The freedom to just be, does that feel different right now in this moment? Because I think that if you are not basically like a cisgender heterosexual white man with inherited wealth, and there are some good ones in New Haven, just naming that. Um, it feels like the system is against you. If you're a mother, like I know right now, I feel very afraid for my child and my child's future. I feel really worried for like women's rights, the rights of Black people, immigrants, refugees, anyone who lives at any of those intersections, LGBTQ folk. And so what does it mean to be to have the space, to create the space where you can just come in and exist?
Well, for me, like being is like, when we say being, like, are you being loving? Are you being joyful? Right? Are you being like this, like expansion of like beyond, right? And so for me, it's creating this collectiveness, right? Like where, creating this space where you'll be surprised, like no matter who you are or whatever you identify as, right? Like you get to come and be in a space with other loving human beings, right? You get to be in a space with other like creatives and things like that, right? Who are looking to create joy or looking to create this sort of empathy and things like that. So it's literally encompassing all of that. And so I'm big on creating safe spaces. Like my home is a safe space. And that's what I am. I'm taking my home, right? Like this is a place. Like my home is sacred to me, and so I'm taking that out and I'm putting it in these sort of pop up spots. So the energy is I'm just transferring the energy into these spaces, right? Because it's about energy. It's about what you bring in and your intentions behind it. And so you bring the intentions, you bring your openness to it, like you leave nourished, like you said, whether it's in your tummy, but your mind and your spirit. Because that's all, there's no separation between the three. When we talk about mind, body, and spirit, it's all connected. It's all interconnected. It is, right? And so it's about nurturing and feeding all those things as human beings.
So also there's a piece of this which is welcoming, making space for, and sort of listening to elders. And I want to talk about that and why it was important to you to build this in.
I talk to my elders all the time, Bruce. I call myself an old spirit. I am. I'm earth, right? Like I have to lay my foundation. I got to be grounded. And so for me, I talk to my elders. Like I do a check-in. And I don't know, that's one thing I grew up watching my mother do, right? Going to visit her mother and me going to my grandmother's house. And so I grew up with this sort of like belief in making sure that I have to make sure that they're well, right? So I have like a circle of elders that I check in on. And part of that too is like creating this event is like, do you have someone in your community who's an elder who might need that additional support, right? Whether it's with groceries, you going to the store for them, or you bringing up their mail or something like that, right? Like I grew up in a neighborhood where there was a Miss Lee. You made you helped Miss Lee bring her grocery bags in the house, kind of stuff. So it is something that my upbringing that I'm bringing forth into this space as well. That's another part of my foundation. And so I do know that the elders and the children are the two primary population that needs to be protected. And I feel like that is something that we don't do enough honoring of protecting them.
And you mentioned Bruce Trammell.
Yes.
So is he also going to be like a storyteller sharing some of his story?
He's our guest elder for April. Yes. And I'm looking to hopefully, plan to do an interview alive with him. He doesn't know, but Saturday or Sunday. But yeah, Bruce is amazing. He's been instrument in my children's lives. Like he taught them how to play chess. So he's like the chess whiz. And he's done coaching, Coach Bruce. Like he's a jack of all trades. And so I'm grateful that he volunteered to be the first one to kick this off.
No, I think that's beautiful. So I want to ask before we run out of time, You're putting so much into other people at this event. How do you also take care of you?
I rituals, rituals. So for me, I'm able to stand here with the energy, with the confidence, right? Because I make sure that I maintain my rituals. I honor my ancestors, right? And so I have a way of keeping myself grounded, and I do enough where when it's time to say stop, you'll pick up tomorrow. Like I have a bedtime. Like for me, I had to learn a good sleep habit, right? Like I'd never had a good sleep habit. And so I found myself very tired and exhausted. And it's like, I can't be productive if I'm sleepy and tired, right? And so I literally I got my phone, it's time to wind down. And I have my mindfulness meditation. So I have my ways of keeping myself grounded. I play a lot too. That's another thing. You got to make sure that you're playing. So I play with the kids. We in here dancing, having dance parties. So I my house is like a playhouse, a playground if you want to come over. So that's how I do. Like I'm able to do what I'm doing now, and I work a full-time job, but I keep a balance between all. And I'm telling you right now, Luce, like this was something that I was literally called to do. And I understand when they said like when you are in the vortex where you're doing in full alignment, like it doesn't feel like a job, doesn't feel like this is literally what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah.
I love that. So I want to ask, how can folks find you? This is a less exciting question. It's more of a just like how if they're listening to this and it really resonates with them, or maybe they think, hey, this is a little outside of my comfort zone, but I'm going to try it. Um, or you can hear a little babbling in the background. Sorry. Um, how do they find you?
I'm on IG as DIV number 9 underscore ENT because intervention can fit. So I'll say it again, DIV number 9 underscore ENT. So that's where I'll do all most of my postings. Facebook, I kept my name, so I'm under Shayla Streater, but I'm just promoting as Divine Interventions. And that's how you can find me on social media. You see me in the community. I'm always out at events, right? And so, but those are my social media tags that you can definitely follow me on.
And I always like to ask, like, what are your wildest hopes and dreamy dreams for this series as you kick it off this month?
So I've always wanted to create a breaking bread cookbook because I wanted to bring people together. So that was that was the challenge, right? When I did this for 9 years, it's like me and the ladies get together. We was like, we supposed to be writing our recipes. We cook out of love. So there's no measurements. So I intentionally hire chefs that do that professionally, right? They do that. They can create a menu. And so part of the chefs participating, they're creating the meals. So we're kicking off in April. We're going to do it every month. So every month will be a theme. The last month will be October. So we're ending in October. And once we end in October, I'm taking a break. So November all the way the whole winter is my hibernation because I do believe in hibernating. And I'm going to be working and self-publishing Breaking Bread Cookbook series. So
So this dream is already coming to fruition.
it
Sometimes I
is.
ask people and it's like way, way far away. You've got a plan. I love this.
I do lose, like I'm telling you, like I planted the seed, and sometimes you may write down a goal. I'm telling people, write it down, like write it down. It may not come at that moment. It may not come in 3 years. I think I wrote this breaking bread thing like 9 years ago, and I knew there's something I wanted to do, and I didn't let it go. And now that I'm doing this, I'm like, I can do the cookbook. So it just makes sense. So it's just like now I get to create a breaking bread cookbook series. I give it to the elders. So it's like it's a win-win.
Shayla Streeter, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. I'm sorry for folks who can hear my child howling in the background, but that's just part of daycare being closed. It's community radio at its finest. It's really putting the community in community radio. My guest today has been Shayla Streeter, and we have been talking about A Seat at the Table Breaking Bread Remix, which is taking place on Saturday, April 26th from 4 to 8 p.m. location is at if folks register,
Yeah,
and they can find you on Instagram at, can you repeat the handle just one more time?
absolutely. It is DIV number 9 underscore ENT. You'll see a number 9 as the my logo symbol.
Amazing. Shayla, I want to thank you so much for being with me today. I hope that you are able to go outside, enjoy this beautiful sunshine, enjoy some like delicious seasonal green things or not green things that are still plants. Yeah, and have a beautiful weekend.
Well, Lucian, I just want to thank you. I'm honored because today is Good Friday. It really is a Good Friday. And it's the 18th when you add it up, 1 and 8 equals 9. So again, it's just full circle. So
Yes, yes, and we are. I will also say we're, it's right before Easter. If Easter's your holiday, and then this year, I always find this very special when it happens when Easter and Passover overlap,
mhm,
because it's just these two celebrations from very similar Abrahamic religions that are both celebrating rebirth.
yeah, yes,
So.
and that's what this is a rebirth. So
Absolutely. Shayla, thank you so much.
thank
And thank you, as always, to Harry Droz, the man behind the magic. Harry, we couldn't do this without you. We love you. Take us out.